Hello everybody, this is Steve Valentine welcoming you to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? Doesn't matter if you're not. As a matter of fact, I'm getting a lot of messages from people who aren't magicians who are kind of loving this kind of insight, this peek into the insane world of magic. And also, it's good for magicians too. I get messages from magicians, both amateur and professional, who are having a great time. And it's interesting how people get different things, you know. There's an episode where I talk about mental health, and a few people have reached out to me to say that was important for them to listen to because they were going through stuff. You never know the journey that people are going through, right? So it feels good to know that the work we're doing here at Magicians Only is affecting people in a positive way. Also, there are people who are learning all about the world of magic or being re-inspired or just taking really good, or just having a good time and listening to the insanity. Talking of insanity, this is part 2 of the talk with Matt DeSiro about cruise ships. I would highly recommend that you read between the lines, not just what we're saying, but what's between the lines of what we're saying, because, you know, everybody still wants to work, right? You got that. Don't forget, Magicians Only is sponsored by Magic on the Go at magiconthego.com. It really is an incredible resource. I know I talk about it every week, because if it wasn't for Magic on the Go, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. But there is so much there. Remember we talked about on the last episode about how the diminishing cards playlist is on there, about how the wallet stuff is on there. Another one that's on there is the magnetic cards. Now, this is a very powerful trick. It goes back over 100 years. But did you know that there are so many methods? And Max Maven, I think, came up with one of the best, which he allowed me to teach on Magic on the Go. So there's a whole array of methods and presentations and ideas for the magnetic cards. And if you don't know what it is, you take a deck of cards. Sometimes it can be borrowed. Sometimes it's your own. Maybe it's tarot cards. Maybe it's ESP cards. Maybe it's postcards. Who knows? But you take these cards, right? And you spread them out on the table, on the floor. Your hands are checked. They're not sticky. There's no glue on them. And you focus and you put your hands just above the cards, and boom, all the cards start sticking to your fingertips, like you personal magnetism. It just kind of pulls the cards to your fingers. And now you raise them up in the air. You raise. And at the right moment, they all fall as you break the spell. Well, it's not only an incredible trick, because we all know it's impossible to magnetize cardboard, but there are presentation ideas as well in the deep dive long playlist that is the magnetic cards. So that is just one of the many playlists and things that we offer at Magic on the Go. So I highly recommend you check it out. Okay. Meanwhile, until you do, why don't we pop over to part 2 of cruise ships with the hilarious and always inappropriate Matt DeZero.
And the other big tip is whoever you become friends with, cruise director, production manager, the techs are your best friends. Like, you treat them like gold. Yeah. I have an Excel file with the ship they work on and all their names and what they drink. So if I see them in crew bar or if I see them in a bar out there, I'll be like, "Hey, Miguel, good to see you. You having a drink? Yeah, great. Dirty martini, right? Extra olives." And they
feel special.
They totally feel special. I have a memory like a sieve. It's terrible. But
you have an Excel sheet?
Yep.
We're going to be selling this Excel sheet.
Ask John. I told John Wing and a few other comics, and I'm like, really? Yeah. But it keeps you working.
That's really smart. It is about, and the tech people, because I know acts that go on not just cruise ships, but I've been there where acts have showed up and they treat the tech like crap. In fact, there was a great example of a very famous singer who was doing Glastonbury, and she showed up late, and the crew and the Brits are. So British crews especially are not impressed by anything, right? They do it every day. They go home when it's time to go home. Literally, the term "pulling the plug" came from the BBC. If you know this, because television used to switch off, right? Yeah. Like at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But there was this thing where you got your studio for a certain amount of time, and if you went over, it didn't matter. They'd pull the plug for the electricity to shut it down in mid-show. So pulling the plug. At least I think that's where it came from. Is that all heart?
You should never admit it to not knowing. You should have been authoritative.
Okay,
like,
wait,
yes,
I'll cut that bit out. Anyway, that's
the point is that the techs just they control everything. Yeah. So if you have too long a rehearsal, they hate that.
Right.
We've talked about this before in
Yes.
private, I know, but I think it bears repeating to your Magic on the Go people.
Okay, let's talk about tech. Yeah, let's go there.
Because I have none. So I honestly think part of the reason I work a lot on ships, or as much as I want to, is because I have no tech. So they're like, your rehearsal is at 4:30 till 5:30. You get an hour, let's say.
Right.
And I'm like, I need 10 minutes. And I go in there, and they're like, "What? You just need 10?" I go, "Yeah, I need just 10 minutes. A special on this thing, a special on this thing. I need general wash, darken the house."
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. That's done in 2 minutes, and then they check. 1, 2, 3. I check the mic on the stand. That's it. It's done.
Do two things. Let's explain what a special is.
Light from overhead. I guess what would you see that mostly in? I don't know. It's like a light from overhead.
Light,
it's like So you'd have a big pool. I have a cane and hat table, and I have a big pool light on it, and I have another pool light on this that's open because I can't see inside the case without it. So
because we're old.
Yeah, I'm like I can't see.
Yeah.
You should see the peaks. I got to use them for cards. I got to push the card for
Jumbo index playing card.
So, but I always say to them, I'm like, hey man, it's like 10-minute tech will be done, and then you guys can go have dinner, and they love it. It's an extra 45 minutes for them for dinner.
Of course they love you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the last 3 ships I worked, each guy said the exact same thing. When are you coming back? I haven't even done the show. They're like, oh, when are you coming back? And then we start talking about other magicians.
Yes, pay attention here. This is very important.
Because you also get all the gossip.
That's the thing you got to do when you got to ask the gossip, because they love to talk about it, don't they?
They love to talk about every other act.
Yeah.
But they all say the same thing. Oh, this guy, I couldn't believe it. It was 2 hours of tech. You only work one night on a cruise ship, so you're only doing 2 45s, right? So early show, late show.
So more tech than his actual show.
Yeah, and he's like, this is crazy. And then, okay, maybe once it's in QLab in the computer, if they come back regularly, maybe it's useful. But still, you got to run the rehearsal, and they would just rather not. And then, I'm sure they're playing Gardenscapes while I'm on. They don't care. They're like, do you need a follow spot? No, just keep the wash bright enough. I don't need anything. Well, the theater we worked, I think I was done in 10, 15 minutes, and you were like an hour and a half of tech.
Yeah, this is, Matt and I did a show at a theater, not a cruise ship theater, but at a theater. And
land theater.
A land theater. There's one that doesn't go like this, as you. Yeah. Yes, my tech took forever and then didn't work, and then we had to do the show without it. And this is.
But he was hilarious. Problems. This is the thing, though. This is the takeaway: is you have to be quick. Like, it's true, none of Steve's tech worked, and believe me, from the wings, it was hilarious.
None of it.
But he killed. And I said, you don't need the tech. In fact, I would build the screw up into your act.
Let's make it look like the tech's failed.
Because I'm so anti-technology.
This happened to me once at a show, and I went out to do my opening, and only the curtain didn't open in time. So the guy thought I was going to, even though in rehearsals I'd asked for the curtain to open, it didn't. He thought I was going to just page it myself, but I'm like set with props, so I can't open the curtain. So I'm literally behind the curtain going, open the curtain. And then the guy's like, oh, and he gets up from the chair and he starts doing this. And as he's opening the curtain, now I'm out of time with the music, right? So then I try and restart the music, but I'm like, I can't. So the whole thing was hilariously messed up. And in the end, I just stopped and went, all right, let me just tell you what should have happened right now. The music plays, I'm introduced, you guys give me a huge round of applause as I walk out. Then I'm going to produce this bowl of flowers, and then you go, whoa, whoa. And then I just walked them through verbally what the opening trick was. And I said, at the end of it, you guys go nuts. And the crowd went nuts.
Perfect.
And I'm like, maybe I should just keep that in.
I would keep it in. As you know, I don't like any tech. I use a mic on a stand with a cord, and I have to fight to get that. Like, they'd rather me have a wireless.
That's the thing I don't understand. They want to give you a wireless, even though they tell you that almost every magician who has tech, it screws up, right?
Yes. Keep it. Like I said 2 weeks ago to the guy, I was like, the cord never cuts out. It's always there. And then they fight, and then sure enough, I finally did relent, and I wore their stupid Madonna-esque headset thing.
Yeah.
And in the middle of my set, it craps out, and then a tech has to come out and flip up my back. And rummage through, it looks like he's rummaging through my ass to put in new batteries and reset the thing.
It's a bit. You could do that.
Yeah, I made comment.
Yeah.
Well, I made comment. But after the guy left, I'm like, I just looked to the side of the stage, and that's why I want a cord.
Yeah. Did you not ask for one on the side? I mean, if you insist on using one of these, which I don't have great mic cable technique, which we should do at some point, because I think it's very important, especially now that tech is turning in on itself.
Good.
Yeah, we should learn to do that, because I'll never forget I used to practice when I was a teenager. I practiced my act at home, and I started doing the working men's clubs, right? And so we're talking 86, 87.
Worth them.
And right, in England, they're rough, right? You know, you've done that, you've been there. And it's just like a beer. The mic smells like a beer, just like Billy Joel says, and it's in a stand. And I'd never worked with one. I didn't. So I thought when I got...
You didn't know? Oh, wow.
No, I was super young, right? So I'm used to doing my act with the palming and everything, and then I go out there and I'm like, I can't, and I'm tripping over the cord, like I'm pulling it and it's like catching on the mic stand. I knock the mic stand over. I'm a kid, but nevertheless, I think...
Do you know what I learned about that?
What?
You can tenkai palm a card and still move the mic stand. I know that only because I just had to do it.
But it still flashes, because tenkai is the worst thing you can do in stand-up, right?
Everybody flashes tenkai, especially with my technique.
Yeah.
But
Tenkai's dead and he still flashes. It's like...
Point is, you have to use that mic stand.
Right.
I just think it's super important to go with. But I know everybody uses these and they love it. But
I feel like, I remember Bob Cassidy, the mentalist. I mean, he has a microphone's billet switch that's just fantastic. So he's got the billet in this hand and he's holding the mic. And he takes the billet back from someone and he just passes the mic to this hand and he's done the switch. So yeah, you can build...
It's your new, it's the magic wand of today. You know how David Williamson used to call the magic wand the motivation stick, for his cups and balls?
Yeah,
that's kind of what you can use it for that.
Well, that's amazing, because in my chocolate box routine for a while, I sometimes use a flashlight instead of a wand. But every now and again, I will use a microphone just because I like to put it underneath the armpit. Although it's a radio mic, so it kind of doesn't make any sense. But it's a bigger handheld, just so that they can hear the coin when I tap it on the glass and whatever. But
that vanish freaks me out, man, every time. It's ridiculous.
It is.
That he won't tell me how it's done.
I told you. Didn't I tell you?
No, you did not.
All right, well, okay.
Pause this. Anyways, back to ships.
Back to ships. So we're just talking about tech right now. So you don't have to, so how much, okay, you don't bring any tech, so you just
I have an image for the screen because they asked for it. There's usually two screens in the theater or one behind you. So
just that fills the stage.
I've relented and I'm like, okay, fine. The illusion of quality with me is that's my tagline. Matt DeSiro, when you can't afford the best.
The illusion of quality.
Matt DeSiro, what do you want for $200? So yeah, there's the screen image, which I'm forced to. I bring play on and play off music because it's on a USB key, and
so you just give them a JPEG for the image.
Yeah. That's all that's on that key is one image for the screens, vertical and horizontal, just because I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
The graphic designer did that for me. And then the play on, play off music, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yep. And then the tech as I described it, but they love that, and I think you work more because of it. I really do.
I think it's something to be said. I mean, we were talking about my one-man show, which I think has like over 100 cues in it, which is insane. But
when it works, it's awesome.
When it works,
you outproduce me every show. Right? Like, when the production works, it's great.
See, I love the production value of it. Now, I have a friend of mine who works he does a lot of speaking engagements, and he says, but most of the conventions he goes to, they have an iMac, right? So they have a camera that follows him anyway, and he can tell him, the guy handling it, you can close up. David Ben always says, if you're going to use a camera, do a cue sheet, do like
for the camera
do a
operators.
shot list for your cameraman.
When David told us that in his house that one time, and I was shocked because I'd never thought of it before.
Right?
But now, guess what I got? I actually said to him, just for the record, he will attest to. I literally looked at David and I said, "I'm stealing this idea from you."
Yeah.
I wasn't even ashamed.
Yeah, no, we both did. And the idea of doing a shot list is genius. So you can tell.
Yeah, so they know when to zoom in, they know when to pull out. Oh, it's great. But on a ship, I don't think they would, they would do anything for you, but I don't think it would be appreciated because it's more work for them.
Yeah, unless you would bring it,
the audience is not paying.
Right.
So, okay, production value, I think what they really want on a ship for production value, they want to laugh.
Yeah. They want people to have a good time.
Yeah, so they don't care if you got lights and sound and music. I mean, how do you do illusions without music? I guess it's possible, but
just have them put on background music. And now I notice because I have I'm doing a special cruise for Virgin.
Oh, yes.
And in that contract it said, please make sure that your music is royalty free. Which I always thought if you were in the middle of the ocean, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's international waters.
It's international waters, but. It has asked for that now, which is an interesting thing.
They ran into some problem with the frequencies on microphones for that same reason, right? Like TELUS bought up that bandwidth of frequency that all the ships have been using for all their wireless garbage mics,
right?
And they had to buy all new tech to accommodate the bandwidth that they were allowed to use. Okay. So I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? It was just something casually I heard from a tech. I don't know anything about it because I don't have any tech.
See, when I go to a gig now, I have to bring my microphone, which plugs into whatever system is at the gig, and then depending on what system I'm using for sound and audio visual cues, I got to bring all that stuff as well. It's a pain in the butt when you just want to go and do your show.
I don't know how you travel with all that stuff, man.
So I have a separate bag just for the bloody tech. Anyway,
this for the show, another one for your clothes, and a carry-on. That's all you need. 2 of them. That's it. That's what you've got to get it down to. And if you can get it all down to 1, even better.
I mean, even better, right? If you can have a prop that you can do 2 or 3 tricks with, then that's. I mean, certainly we have a deck of cards, and we can do a million tricks with those.
Don't know if the audience loves that, but
just build yourself as the card man, the card shark, and then they have to know what to expect.
Then how do you get the smoke to come out of your sleeve if you don't?
That always worries me. Things like those kinds of gadgets when they're on the plane, when they're in the suitcase. What does a smoke machine look like? What does all of those things?
Is it allowed on a ship, for example? Like sometimes they won't. Like, there used to be everybody used confetti. Now you're not allowed to have confetti at all.
At all?
At all? No. I do the salt pour, and I do it into a coffee cup. It's a long story, but it's clean. But man, when I described the first time, it's like, hey, we don't want this stuff all over the stage. I'll sweep it up. No, well, if you miss something, the next show is the dancers tomorrow night. If somebody slips and falls, they're nuts.
Right.
So they don't want the mess. So you can't make it snow, I don't think, anymore. And I mean, what's that, like 98 magicians' endings?
Yeah.
How many magicians have never seen snow as a child? It's fascinating.
It's incredible. I mean, it's really sad.
I
really,
never saw it.
It.
It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
They should start up a charity.
Which is charity to get these magicians to see snow. Yeah, I've never seen snow since I was a kid.
Yeah, it's wild. So
that's not a horrible thing, though, that maybe people are forced to do something new and original.
I told you what my cruise agent's website says, right? So this is the other thing. I guess always be more original if you can. But my cruise agent is formerly a comedian. Now he's an agent, but he obviously knows all the variety acts.
Yeah.
And the website says, if you produce a bowling ball, if you get out of a straitjacket, if you have an envelope with a question mark on a board behind you, and a bunch of other things, it's like, do not send in your video. Because he can't sell it, right? Because he's
an envelope with a question mark. Like, how many times? I mean, come on. Yeah.
But that a stand-up comic turned agent recognizes that this is overdone material.
Sure.
And so, like, it used to be, I would go on a ship and they'd be like, hey, who was there last week? And they'd go, I don't know. I go, describe the act. Oh, well, he had a bunch of, I don't know, he had a bunch of bubble wrap, and he did, Eric Buss, right. Or he used a piece of paper and he made like a card rise. Oh yeah, Martin Lewis. Right. But now they're like, well, it was some guy who got out of a straitjacket and he produced this bowling ball. And I'm like, well, that could be
anyone,
anybody. So you're better off being original anyways. And the agents will look at, and believe me, competition to get an agent is so tough now that the more you stand out and the more original you are, probably the better anyways.
Just to get them to look at your tape. What, I know because I've been...
There's only like 6 agents in the world for ships, and you can only have one, you can't work for them all.
Yeah. Is there an exclusivity? I didn't think there was an exclusivity, but...
Well, we have the same agent, so you should have read the contract. But probably didn't. No, it's the expectation is there's only like 5 cruise lines too, right? So they all know. So if you work for our guy, you can't go work for somebody else. Both 2 agencies can't pitch you the same cruise line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So choose your agents wisely. Too, because there are some shady ones, man.
I would highly recommend talking to a lot of acts off camera to ask them true stories of experiences and some of the things that you want to look at when you look for an agency, when you're asking for stories from other acts. And it is sometimes very hard for an act to recommend their agent because, you're going to be competition.
Every week you get is a week taken away from me,
exactly,
right?
But just as far as like experiences with various agents, get those stories because some of the things that you need to be aware of is, are they going to back you up?
Yes, like our agent. I've known him for 25 years. I worked with him on ships when he was a comic, and he always has the acts back, even when I'm wrong.
Right,
which is sometimes
frequent.
Frequent depends on how you define frequent, Steve. But so they'll always do that, and he fights for raises every year. A lot of cruise lines will not give you a raise every year unless your agent, don't forget, like, they don't want to defend you oftentimes because if they get into an argument with the cruise line, they will potentially lose that cruise line.
Yeah.
And that means, like, there's one agency I know, I used to work for them for 9 years, but they have like 300 acts. They don't want to risk the work of 300 acts on you. So they'd rather throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Whereas our guy is more like Jerry Maguire. He's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll burn it to the ground. My guys I'm not dumping. It's good.
Yeah, because he's also got very strong acts that everybody wants and
yes,
and professionals. And they really do look for professionals. They don't want
Except for me.
Prima donnas. No, you're a pro.
I have dirt on
You show up, you got dirt on
I got dirt on the agent.
all the ships. But it's like I think that I think this is super important to get those stories. I've heard there's a friend of mine who was stranded once in Bora Bora, which sounds like a wonderful place to get stranded. They got kicked off. There was something happened with the ship and it had to go into dry dock. Oh, it was at the beginning of COVID. And they got stranded in Bora Bora. And the cruise line's like, pay your, we'll reimburse you. And I don't think they've been reimbursed yet.
I'm having problems with reimbursement right now on baggage. This is the other expense that you guys need to be aware of.
We should go down the list of
baggage expenses can be killer, and not every cruise line will cover your baggage.
Check that out. Make sure that it's in the contract.
And ask not only is it covered, but how is it covered? Like on some cruise lines, you just take your baggage receipt to the purser and they give you cash.
Right.
Other ones are like, fill out this form, send it, have your agent send it in, and then I've been waiting for 3 months.
But how can you go to the purser for your baggage on the way home? Like that you have to wait on the next cruise. So you're always like so if you then yes, because a friend of mine has been trying that. They haven't gone back on a ship yet, so they can't get their money.
Yeah, that's you might be the reverse of one ahead.
Yeah, right. You're definitely one behind. But I think that so expenses are, for example, the things you got to make sure of, like, okay, transportation to the airport, but transportation from the airports to the hotels.
They always make you come in a day before, another thing. So be prepared for that too. Don't forget, a 7-day cruise is really a 9-day cruise.
Right.
You're on the ship for 7 days, but they make you come in the day before, and then the day home is the 8th day. So that's a travel expense, but you're right. You have to go, house to the airport to the hotel.
Right.
Then the next morning, hotel to the ship if they don't provide transfers. And some cruise lines do, and some don't. But it's worth asking because it chunks up. Like, I was on a ship, was that last week or week before, wherever I was? Last week already?
Last week, yeah.
It's the edibles. Can't remember. All I know is I added it all my expenses were $600 before I walked on the ship.
Before you walked on the ship?
Before I walked. It was $200 in baggage. It was $100 of airport to the hotel.
Yep.
Then dinner, you have to eat. Sometimes they'll give you a meal voucher at the hotel. Sometimes they won't. And then do you want to eat at that crappy hotel? You don't always know. How many times have I eaten at the Cambrian Inn in Fort Lauderdale and gone,
why?
Probably should have could have went anywhere else, like to McDonald's. So all those expenses chunk up, and then taxes, of course. 10% agent commission. Although now I hear it's going up. Our agents will never change.
Okay.
But the other ones are like 15, 20, 25% sometimes. So
they want more commission because the fees aren't going up, so they need to get more money in some way.
Right, but say they don't do the baggage or the ground transportation. So let's say you make $3,000 a week on a ship. I think that's starting entry fee. $600 out of the gate. So now you're down to $2,400, half for tax. What are you working for? Yeah. And then God forbid you want to have a drink or something nice on the island, or you want to, maybe you want to go to the animal preserve, or but like those are all serious expenses. They really do chunk up. And then how could I forget the biggest gripe? Some cruise lines, mandatory fees for cabin cleaning, $20 a day.
Right.
$20 a day for
You're not going to get this back.
No.
Yeah.
No, the one cruise line is, and they never give raises. This particular cruise line, we know an act that's been around longer than me, and he hasn't got a raise ever. And now he's 30 years.
He's been working on this one cruise line.
And so $20 a day for the cabin cleaning. You have to have the internet if you want to see your kid or whatever, your wife, or your mistress, whoever it is.
It was like $250 your wife, your mistress,
whoever it has to be.
Yeah.
So it's $40 a day. Yeah, it's almost $300 a week. And then
so that on top of your travel, now you're out $1,000. Now you might get that $600 back if you're lucky, if you've made sure that that's covered in your contract.
But they have workarounds. So these spawny bastards, they go like this one cruise line goes, well, we give you $100 a week for travel, and I'm like, yeah, that's one bag one way. And they're like, but then other places you don't have hardly any expenses where we fly you to. So it all kind of evens out at the end of the year. But it doesn't. It does not.
So you really need to look at this and see if it's financially viable, because once you go through all of those things, the cabin fees, the internet, the travel, and you know how much you're getting back and making sure you're even able to get it back, even if they say they do, it's all got to be negotiated into your contract. Now, most cruise lines will not negotiate things like that, right? That's just their policy.
They just, and every cruise line is different. Like some cruise lines are amazing and they cover your ground transportation, like I say, your baggage, and they make sure they treat you like rock stars. And others treat you like you should be, on the hull of the Black Pearl.
Thank you, Matt. That was eye-opening and just incredibly delightful and also a great trip down memory lane for me from all my old days back on the cruise ships. There is way more to come on this subject of cruising and cruise ship magic with Matt DeZero, but also I would say that a lot of what we talk about you can apply to jobs that you do on the mainland. Doesn't just have to be on cruise ships, not just magician jobs, but regular jobs. There's this whole thing about knowing how to handle an environment when you arrive. No two places are the same. When you work on a cruise ship, there's a certain expectation of behavior that you have to follow, and they know that there are literally thousands of magicians that want to work on cruise ships. So you not only have to bring your A game the whole time on stage, but in your behavior, when you walk around the ship, it's very, very important. You are representing the company 100% of the time. So if you're not a social person, stay in your cabin. Otherwise, you need to represent and you need to be upbeat. And people will ask you the same questions, and people will ask you for photographs, and sometimes people will be dicks, and sometimes people will be, and most of the time people will be lovely. So it's a really interesting world, the cruise world. And so maybe if you're not a magician and you're just listening to this, next time you go do a cruise as a vacation, have a heart for the magician and for all the entertainers. Understand kind of the world that they live in. It's a very, very precarious, interesting world, and there will be more to be said on that in the next upcoming episodes. But what we'll do is we'll do the next 2 episodes a little further down the line, because I want to get to something else next week that's quite important. Okay, so don't forget that Magicians Only is sponsored by Magic on the Go. Magic on the Go. We've been talking about diminishing cards, the wallet routines that are there. This is, by the way, something I almost got into trouble on a cruise ship because I brought one of these. It's a little mouse. It's a little stuffed toy, but you animate it like this, and it looks like it's alive. Well, okay, take it from me. Don't take this into the dining room on a cruise ship. They don't appreciate it. It's not funny. Okay. Anyway, forget about that. So we were talking about what we're talking about. We're talking about Magic on the Go. Oh yeah, there's so many great playlists, and I think if you go check it, but it's not just the playlist. It's also a lot of the individual stuff that you might find interesting. For example, David Nixon, one of my favorite performers, had an incredible routine where a playing card ends up in a cigarette. We found a piece of footage of him doing it at the London Palladium. It's in black and white. It's many years old, but I analyzed it and I teach that entire routine on Magic on the Go in depth. We also talk about my old mentor Dick Turpin, who I talk about in my main show because he had quite an impact on me as a magician. But he had a certain number of tricks, including the hat trick where a turnip appears underneath a borrowed hat. Borrowed hat, you say? Yes, you remember those days. But you could do it with a baseball hat. There's no reason why you shouldn't do it with a baseball hat, actually. So we delve into the magic of Dick Turpin on Magic on the Go as well. In fact, that was the spark for an entire multi-part video playlist on the art of street performing, which is also just one of the many playlists and things that you will get when you sign up for Magic on the Go at less than $25 a month. I think it's one of the best subscriptions out there. Anyway, that's just me because I'm biased, bias this, bias that. Anyway, I will see you next week for another episode of Magicians Only. Thanks so much for sticking it through to the end. Don't forget to check out the tip jar, if you would, in the link and the QR code. If you enjoyed the episode, please drop a tip to the team. And if you have a question, hit the Q&A link and send us a decent question. I say decent as in proprietarily decent, like not offensive question, to the team at Magicians Only at lovemagiconthego@gmail.com. All right. Okay. All right, loves. I'll see you all next week. All right. Bye for now.